Okay, welcome everyone. My name is John Katsir. I write for Forbes and consult with tech companies. I'm your MC for the day, and our next session is a solo session. It's titled Knowing Your Brand and User, and our speaker is Catherine Connelly, who's the co-founder and senior vice president of marketing for the Meet Group. Catherine, welcome, and it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, John. So, hi, everyone. Good to be talking to you this morning. So I'm Catherine Connelly. I head marketing for TMG US, and I want to talk to you about knowing your brand and users. We are a public company, so I have to show you this cautionary note regarding forward-looking statements. Moving on. For those who aren't familiar with the Meet Group is a portfolio of 5 dating apps with fantastic live streaming features. And so our apps are Meet Me, which is the app I co-founded with my brothers, Lavu, Tagged, Scout, and Growler. So in the US, Meet Me has the largest brand. I'll be focusing on that app a little bit the most in this presentation. Meet Me and Scout have very similar US users. And it's generally like, your typical US person. So we for instance, we're not like focused on the coast or anything like that. Our members are very geographically spread across the country. Lavu is one of the largest dating apps in Germany. Tagged is the largest African-American dating app. Scout, I already covered a bit, but they actually also have a very large international user base as well. And then Growler is the newest app to our portfolio and is our dating app for bears. In 2019, we did 211.7 million in revenue, and we have over 16 million mobile active users and 4 million daily active users across our portfolio. So that's a little bit about us. If you're not familiar with live streaming, how we do it is it's a one-to-many live streaming, and so you have one person streaming, kind of like this, and more viewers. And how we kind of are different than other dating apps is you're not just going on there to chat with a few people to set up dates immediately. Our members do that as well, but they're also there for entertainment. And so we really see, if you look at the slide there, that we see that as where we are in the space. Entertainment is very important to our members, but so is utility. And so it's kind of the future of content and community because of how we are built, it becomes a fantastic community for our members, and really becomes more than dating. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this presentation, so my team and I did this fun contest where we asked users to submit their tattoos to us, and I had to highlight this tattoo from one of our top streamers, Gypsy. Sorry, I had a poll just jump up from one of our top streamers, Gypsy. And as you can see, we have our wonderful Meet Me logo right there. You can also see it on the Meet Me pillow behind her. We also send our top streamers lots of swag. And so, and she also has a dragon tattoo. Now, a dragon is our top, our most expensive live streaming gift. We actually monetize our live product via virtual gifts, and so you'll have longer animations for more expensive gifts, very elaborate gifts, and then shorter static gifts for the less expensive gifts. But it's a way of kind of supporting your streamer and showing that you like what you're seeing. And so if you send someone a dragon, that's saying you're really loving their stream. And so Gypsy also has a dragon tattoo. And on the same day that she was getting this tattoo, another top streamer also was getting a dragon tattoo. So you can see how important those gifts kind of are to them, and how focused they are on those gifts. But what it really shows is when someone is willing to tattoo your brand on their skin, it means they love your brand. It means that it's incredibly important to them. It's part of their identity. They want to show it to everyone. And it's clear that our apps mean a lot to our members, but more importantly, our members also mean a lot to each other. So I'm highlighting Gypsy's tattoo here, but we also have another one of our streamers, Kelly Kel, actually has a tattoo of one of her favorite streamers on our app, Mia, tattooed on her arm, because she loves being part of the community that much. And so making those connections between our members is what our apps are all about, and how they're finding this connection, and why our brand matters to them. And so I think it's useful in talking about brand and knowing your users so this is kind of a general layout of what I'll be going through in this presentation, is knowing what makes your app special, knowing your user's journey to get there. How do you collect feedback from users? How do you go where your users are? And also, how do you let them tell the story? Because at the end of the day, that's what's most important for brand. You need the members and the users of your app to be the ones that are talking about it. Otherwise, it's because it's going to be a much stronger message. So what's useful in doing this is kind of going through and seeing what motivates a user to join the app. And so for us, that's what makes the app special. And so for us, that's community. We know that when our members are using our app, it's where they feel they belong. We know this because they tell us in surveys, but also, and when we ask this question in a few different ways. So one way that we ask is a very simple, which app has users that are more like you? And we'll compare our apps to apps like, say, Tinder or Bumble, that are more, that have less strong communities, and they feel like they belong on our apps. It's a much stronger tie to that community. But community isn't, and so once you have that community, then it's time to foster connection. And so in real life and on our apps, how you create connections with people could be based on appearance. It can be based on proximity, who's nearby. On all dating apps, obviously, location matters a lot, because it's, there are lots of people that do long distance relationships, but of course it's a lot easier if you know that you can eventually meet up with the person in real life, when you're not in a aside from current times. There you can also connect with people over shared interests, whether you have the same taste of music, read the same books, and then there's also personality. A lot of our streamers, what makes their stream special is just how wonderfully engaging their personalities are, and how they really find a way of bringing everyone together. And the way they do that is just being purely personality driven. And then of course, talents. You can also bond over people, you connect with people over talent. All of these is kind of what makes us the neighborhood bar. Because if you think about it, if you're standing at a neighborhood bar, first of all, it's your neighborhood, so proximity is there. But what drew you there is going to be shared interests. People there, if there's a live music performing, that's the talent. And that's what separates something like our apps from, say, your typical dating apps, which are kind of more like a speed dating event. Like, you're really only there to line up dates and then kind of leave. You're not really there to have fun. The next important aspect of our app that really brings us together is chat. So chat is the lifeblood of our applications. You're not going to make any connections with people if you can't chat with them. And so chat comes in many forms. There's text, there's photo, there's video, and eventually in person. Millions and millions of chats are sent per day for our members to connect and meet each other. And chat is the most important aspect of our app for another reason too. In examining how our users, what motivates them to be there, it's because they want to find connection with these people. And nothing's going to re-engage a user better than receiving a chat from another user. And so it's an important tool for just bringing people back into the app and keeping them engaged there. If we were just video, and a lot of, you see this with the pure play video apps, you're going to have, you might have lots of longer sessions, but you're going to have overall fewer sessions than if you have chat, because chat allows the members to kind of check back in, send a few messages, and then maybe elongate one of their sessions within the apps to be on video. And then lastly, all of these, the reasons. So there's the reason they're chatting. The reason that they're there is eventually to find love. And so there's a few different types of love. You could love your significant other, you love your friends. And then in this case of live streaming, you also love your fans and you love the stars. We also asked our users what makes our app special. And what really stands out here, I think, is the is how important or how frequently they mention that it's because it's more than dating. They'll say it's more real. And part of that is because, you know, when you're viewing profiles, it's a little different versus hopping into live and seeing how someone actually interacts. It's the same way of how in person, you know, someone's personality might make you that much more interested in them, and just shows you all the dimensions of the person. But as you can see here, a lot of people are drawing out that you can make friends, and it's not just about dating. And I think that that's just the key aspect to our brand, and what makes us so special is that it's really is a place that they can hang out with the community and find something more. So in talking about what makes our app special, you also have to talk about what leads the app, what led the user to the app in the first place. So for us, that is what motivates the users to join is loneliness, and they want to find the opposite of loneliness. So what that means is, you know, and if you think about normal dating apps, you have users who you have users who or sorry, when a user joins a typical dating app, what tends to happen is a lot of dating apps skew heavily male. And so the problem with that is, you know, if you're looking for a opposite sex relationship, then what happens is, you know, men might be sending lots of messages and not receiving a ton of responses, but they're also generally not sending those messages equitably. And so it's not like they're sending, it's not like every woman who's interested in opposite sex relationships is getting all those chats, and or is getting enough chats too. And so what ends up happening is you have someone that joined this dating app because they want to find connection, and they end up feeling a little bit more lonely than before because now they're also rejected. And so that's when live becomes that much more important. And knowing that user motivation for finding connection is what makes live work. Because now, instead of just being in that state of in that state of rejection, they're able to actually find connection immediately. Because you can hop into any live stream. You don't need that many broadcasters that are actively broadcasting to entertain a lot of people. And so it's key to have that feature where, you know, you can be chatting with not only the broadcaster, but also just with the rest of the group within the group video chat. And so finding, and so being that opposite of loneliness is what makes live work. And we tested this, or we asked this as well. So we asked, you know, to kind of prove out that the product works, you need to, you know, find out, okay, so that was our hypothesis that we could reduce loneliness. And you can see it does. And so when we survey members that report that they don't get enough chats, you know, they'll say that they are lonely. But then if you ask those same users that we're not getting enough chats, how they feel after using live, their feelings of loneliness go down, their feelings of entertainment go up. And so it's an incredibly important step on that for those for the user motivation for being there, is that we're solving that issue. We're solving that loneliness problem. But because our apps aren't necessarily, or because your members aren't necessarily joining us for live video, so we are a dating app, and I think that's important, because when people are searching for us, when people you know, want to join a dating app, they're typically doing it you know, to find connection. They're not saying, I want to find a dating app that has live streaming. That would be fairly unusual. And so they're looking for users, and so the motivation there is they want to connect with people, but, you know, users don't generally know exactly what they want. And so what you need to do is really highlight the feature that you know solves that core issue for them. And so the way that we do that is, first of all, we have live as one of the main tabs of our app, because we know that is a very successful way in getting people to connect. If you actually survey Net Promoter Score, people who use live the most frequently generally like the apps, all of the apps, a lot more, because it really brings that community aspect together, and that's the aspect that's so important to our brands. But the first thing a member does when on any dating app, and ours included, is they're going to, you know, look at the grid and look at chats. And so those are the two most heavily trafficked tabs. And so we have basically an internal ad, if you will, for live within those tabs. So that marquee at the top is showing you who's live now. So, a member is going to sign or is going to join the app. They're going to see some people if they might want to message right there. But then, if they're, this is a full chat screen, you can see messages there. But that's not always how the situation is. They might have an empty chat screen. And then you get that feeling of loneliness again. And so what you need to do is hop into a live stream, and then you can feel more connected again to the community. And so we built the app to really focus on getting users into live while still meeting the need for the dating app use case of sending chats. We also market video within our within the chat feature itself. And so if you look into the chat, there's a little video icon down there, so you can launch into a one-on-one video chat. One-on-one video chats is very important to a dating app as well. But what's fantastic about the one-to-many live stream focus is that you get that community feel, whereas one-on-one is more like a virtual date. The other, and so as we're developing products to try to meet the user's needs and that fit within our brand, one of the things that we launched is Next Date. And so Next Date really brings dating to live. And what's cool about this feature is that you kind of are the star of your own dating show for a bit. So there are these mini dates that are relatively short, and someone goes up into the box there, and the streamer decides if they want to date them or not. And so there's a few questions that we prompt the user with to help the conversation go on in case there's some silence or something like that. So we do help the user out there. But then they get to choose, if they want to next them or date them, and if it's a date, they can connect one-on-one. And so it's a great meshing of bringing that dating use case right into the feature. And so when we're introducing that, our goal was to bring the number of daily active users within video up, and so Next Date was helpful there. And so again, knowing the user's motivation for being on the app and their user's journey and how and the screens they flow through the app has been useful in how we think of the product and the features that we can offer them. So getting to know the user is incredibly important. So this is a picture from last October. We actually had some streamers who had won a contest come into our headquarters to sign fat heads, but also so that they could be on our walls. But also we had quite a few product sessions with them to really learn directly from them what they wanted to see on the apps. And so what we learned in those sessions was that features that they like, features that they don't like, but what's more important is just doing that exercise and connecting with them. We were able to show them our pipeline and say, hey, here's some of the things that are coming to you. What are your initial reactions? So this was more of a focus group, but we do surveys actually incredibly frequently as well. We luckily are able to get thousands of responses from our members within just a day of posting a survey, and all of that is very useful for learning exactly how they're thinking about features. Because if you're not asking them, then you can't really assume that your opinion is right. And you actually see this a lot. So if people in the audience have done Google Play App Store experiments, sometimes the screenshot that you really are sure is going to win just never seems to win. And so it's always important to test and test what you might have your suspicions of what's driving the user to do something, but until you actually ask them, you're really only guessing. And so it's important to collect that feedback, but it's also important to not only collect it from users in a setting like this. We might have product design there, engineering. It's important to include every aspect or every part of your team kind of in those conversations, so that everyone knows the user. And so developers, for instance, know the members that they are developing for. I think that's an incredibly important way of getting not only the brand to kind of flow through the entire organization, but also for the community to feel heard. And this plays out in real time too. So just last week, for instance, we were discussing different config settings for a new feature and talking about, oh, well, what will users want? And then in real time, Jim, our CFO, hops into someone's stream and asks them the feedback, and what we're thinking. And I think that it's incredibly important that you're able to to ask your users with whatever type of app you have for their opinions on how things go. Because they're not going to churn out the next great feature generally. That's not how you create new features, but they're going to let you know how they would use a feature, and then you would know better how to build it, how to set it up, and how to make it a success. So attracting. So the next step is you have to go where users go and attract new users. So historically, we've and we still are. We're very scrappy with our brand spend. We we do a lot with performance spending, but we're scrappy with our brand spend because we really want it to be proven out. And so we, for instance, have a playlist. We sponsor Playlist Live. The first year that we had live, before we even launched monetization, so very early on, what we wanted to see is how this conference works. We knew it was one that we would be interested in just from what we've heard from streamers, but you have to see it yourself. And so we sent 2 people on our team to scope it out, and they did a fantastic job of checking out the venue, but also realizing that the typical sponsor packages that were offered wasn't exactly what we wanted. And so I think it's important to so for instance, if you're looking into a conference, you can take the sponsorship deck, but be creative. Find ways that you're going to reach your exact user. So for instance, we knew that our users were hanging out in a specific place at Playlist, and so we wanted to be in that place and not where the typical sponsor placements were. And so we made sure to do that. And then we also branded their pool party as a way of also showing our members that our VIP members how important they are to us, and kind of as a big fun party for them as well. And so then you also merge the retention aspect of that with the attracting new users. You want to be pairing both. And for those who don't know, Playlist has also YouTube stars, it has TikTok TikTok stars as well, and really anyone in the space. So it was a very specific tool for us to use. And so, and again, as I mentioned before, when we're at these events, we don't just do we don't just send the marketing team or the video team. We send a few people from a few teams so that we know, and so that the members are heard, but also prospective members are heard. And I think that if what we're trying to build as a community with our streamers and what they value from our brand is community, then we have to be members of that community and have that, again, that mindset running through the organization. So that brings us to performance spend. So performance spend is very important to us, and is the bulk of our spend by a lot. But it is also, but brand is what makes everything become easier. So if you're, with mobile apps, obviously you're going to be focused on, what your cost per install is, what the cost per registration is. And what brand does is it makes every aspect of that go much easier. So it brings down your cost per registration. It brings down your cost per install, because a member is much, or a prospective member is much more likely to download and install the app if they've heard of it before, which makes sense. Especially if their friends use it, because that's kind of like the main selling point. And so you want to kind of marry the branding aspect with the performance marketing so that you can actually have the performance marketing perform even better. And what we've been experimenting with a lot more recently is also just letting the members tell their stories themselves. And so we know everyone knows that, word of mouth marketing is the most powerful. If you hear about an app from someone that you trust, or other users, it's going to mean more than what the organization is putting out. You're not just sending out a message. Either you're hearing, basically directly from someone that benefits from it, from the brand and from the app, why they're using it. And so we've been using that user-generated content more in our apps, and our members have actually enjoyed making it for us. We will ask them, hey, can you send us a video talking about why you like Meet Me, and they'll do it, and that will bring our cost per registration down. It'll bring the cost per install down, and it becomes a lot more organic and a lot more true to the brand to have the members telling the stories themselves. And so I think, and I'm starting to run out of time, so I think, to summarize, when you're thinking about knowing your brand and your user, I think it's important to first go through these steps. So, what makes your app special? Really figure out what's differentiating you from the rest that are out there. Then know your user's journey. What's motivating them to be there? And how can you push them into the features that you know that they will find the most benefit from? And how can you create features that you know will resonate with them? The next step is getting feedback. Even if you feel like your user to the T, once you launch your product, you don't really know how the product's going to do until users are on it, and then you need to get their feedback and find out how they're using it, how they would prefer to be using it, and also I've focused a lot on surveys, but it's not just asking them. It's also just looking at the data and seeing where they're spending their time on the app and knowing what's working there. Then you have to go where the users are. For us, that's conferences like Playlist, and specifically not just being at the conference, but finding the specific placements that make the most sense for your brand. And then lastly, it's letting the members tell the story themselves, because that's a great way to bring down your performance marketing. And it's also your performance starting cost per registrations. And it's also just going to be a much more real experience for the prospective member when they see someone talking about their real experiences on the app rather than what a brand puts out. It's just a lot more trustworthy. And so thank you so much. About 18 seconds before it goes, I'm going to be in the branding chat rooms probably throughout the day, as well as the user acquisition chat room. So I hope to connect with you later. Feel free to email me. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Great session, and see you next